Your smartwatch knows more about you than almost anyone else. Where you go, when you sleep, your heart rate, your location, your daily routine. It tracks thousands of tiny details every single day. And most people never think twice about it, because it's only a watch, until it starts tracking things that aren't supposed to be there. These are 5 smartwatch horror stories that felt a little too real. Story 1. High heart rate. I bought the watch because I wanted to get healthier. That was it. No interesting reason. No obsession with technology. No fitness goals. Just a normal smartwatch that tracked steps, sleep, heart rate, and workouts. Everyone seemed to have one. So I bought one too. For the first 6 months, it worked exactly as advertised. Every morning I'd check my sleep score. Every evening I'd look at my steps. The watch became part of my daily routine. Eventually I stopped thinking about it altogether, which is why the first alert caught me completely off guard. It happened on a Thursday night, or technically Friday morning. At exactly 3:14 a.m., the vibration woke me instantly. I rolled over and checked the screen. High heart rate detected. Below the warning sat a number, 142 BPM. I stared at it, confused. I'd been asleep, completely asleep. Yet according to the watch, my heart rate had suddenly spiked. I sat up in bed. The reading immediately began dropping. 142, 138, 132, 125, 118. Eventually it returned to normal. I shrugged it off. Maybe I'd had a nightmare. Maybe the watch glitched. Technology isn't perfect. I went back to sleep. The next morning I checked the health app. The spike was there, exactly at 3:14 a.m. A huge jump in heart rate. Then I noticed something strange. The watch had also recorded movement. Not much, just 30 seconds. The location tag showed the movement came from my kitchen. I laughed. The GPS must have bugged out. Because I lived alone, nobody else should have been moving around my apartment. I forgot about it, until 3 nights later. Again, 3:14 a.m. The vibration dragged me out of sleep. Same alert, same message. High heart rate detected. This time the reading showed 148 BPM. I sat upright immediately. The number slowly dropped. 148, 143, 137, 129. Then normal. The next morning I checked the app. Another spike. Another movement detection. Another location marker. Kitchen. Exactly 30 seconds. The same as before. Now it felt weird. Not terrifying. Just weird. I checked every room before leaving for university. Nothing looked disturbed. Doors locked. Windows locked. Everything normal. For the next week I kept getting the alerts. Not every night. Just often enough to bother me. Always 3:14 a.m. Always the kitchen. Always around 30 seconds of movement. Eventually curiosity got the better of me. I decided to stay awake. Friday night. I made coffee. Put on a movie. Waited. At 3:10 a.m. I turned everything off. The apartment became silent. Only the ticking of the kitchen clock remained. 3:11. 3:12. 3:13. Then, buzz. The watch vibrated. High heart rate detected. 148 BPM. My stomach tightened, because my own pulse wasn't elevated. I checked manually. Completely normal. Around 70. Yet the watch insisted something nearby had a pulse of 148. Then another notification appeared. One I'd never seen before. Movement detected. Location. Kitchen. I slowly looked toward the hallway. The kitchen sat at the far end. Dark. Silent. Empty. Then the heart rate changed. 148. 149. 150. 151. My chest tightened. The number wasn't falling. It was rising. Like somebody standing perfectly still. Trying to calm themselves down. Breathing slowly. Waiting. I couldn't explain why, but every instinct told me not to walk into that kitchen. So I didn't. I sat frozen, watching the screen. The reading eventually began falling. 151, 145, 138, 124, then disappeared. The movement notification vanished too. The apartment returned to silence. I didn't sleep. The following morning I contacted the manufacturer. After explaining everything, the support representative sounded confused. They eventually transferred me to somebody from the technical team. I explained the alerts, the movement detection, the location markers, the strange heart rate readings. There was a long pause. Then the technician said something that immediately made my stomach drop. The watch shouldn't be capable of that. I asked what he meant. He explained that my model could only track the wearer, nobody else. The watch physically couldn't detect another person's heart rate through walls. It wasn't possible. That answer should have reassured me. Instead, it made things worse. Because if the readings weren't real, why were they happening? The alerts continued for another month. Every few nights. Always 3:14 a.m. Always the kitchen. Eventually I stopped checking. I got tired of losing sleep. Tired of worrying. Tired of waiting for notifications. So I started taking the watch off before bed. Problem solved. Or so I thought. Then one night I woke up naturally around 4 in the morning. The apartment was quiet. Everything normal. I reached for a drink. That's when I noticed the watch. It wasn't where I'd left it. I always placed it on my desk before sleeping. Every night. Same place. Yet now it sat on my bedside table. Only inches from my hand. The screen was glowing. A notification waited. Timestamp. 3:14 a.m. Heart rate. 152 BPM. Location. Bedroom. My chest tightened. Because I knew I'd removed the watch before sleeping. I knew it. Then I noticed another line underneath. One that had never appeared before. Distance to user, 0 meters. I stared at the screen, trying to understand what it meant. Then the notification refreshed. The heart rate updated. 152, 149, 144, 139. Slowly decreasing. Like someone nearby was finally calming down. And for the first time, the location marker didn't say kitchen. It didn't say hallway. It didn't say living room. The location marker simply said, beside bed. Story 2, sleep tracking. The watch knew I wasn't asleep. That's what scared me. Because according to everyone else, I was. It started a few months after I bought the smartwatch. One of the features I used most was sleep tracking. Every morning I'd wake up and check the report. Sleep duration. Sleep quality, REM cycles, deep sleep, the whole thing. Most nights were average, nothing unusual, until one Tuesday morning. I woke up around 7:30 a.m. and opened the app. The sleep report looked normal at first. 7 hours and 42 minutes. Heart rate normal. No interruptions. Then I noticed something strange. The timeline showed a brief period of wakefulness. Only 2 minutes. At exactly 2:47 a.m. I frowned. I didn't remember waking up. Still, that wasn't unusual. People wake up during the night all the time. I ignored it. The next morning it happened again. Same thing. Sleep report looked normal, except for a tiny gap. 2 minutes. 2:47 a.m. Exactly. The same time. That felt odd, but not scary. Not yet. Then it happened a third night. Again. 2:47 a.m. 2 minutes awake. Every other part of the sleep graph looked identical. I started paying attention. The following evening I deliberately checked the time before bed. 11:23 p.m. I slept normally. When I woke up, the app showed the same thing. 2:47 a.m. Awake for 2 minutes. No memory of it. Now I was curious. I started checking other data. Heart rate, movement, breathing, everything. That's when I noticed something. The watch recorded movement during those 2 minutes. Not much, just a few steps. 4 or 5. The location data showed something even stranger. The movement didn't happen in my bedroom. It happened in the hallway outside my apartment. My stomach tightened. I checked again. The map clearly showed movement beyond my front door. That shouldn't have been possible. I lived alone, and I definitely wasn't sleepwalking. At least, I didn't think I was. The next day I called my sister. She laughed, said I was probably walking in my sleep. I laughed too, at first. Then I bought a cheap indoor security camera, just to prove it. That night I set it up facing my apartment entrance. Then I went to bed. The next morning I checked the sleep report. Same result, 2:47 a.m. Awake, 2 minutes. The camera footage showed nothing. Not a single movement. I reviewed the entire night. Nobody left the bedroom. Nobody approached the door. Nobody entered the hallway. Nothing. Yet according to the watch, I had walked outside. The following week it kept happening. Every night. Exactly 2:47 a.m. Exactly 2 minutes. Eventually I stopped checking the app. The whole thing felt ridiculous. Then one morning the watch generated a new notification. One I'd never seen before. Sleep pattern change detected. I opened it. The app highlighted the same period. 2:47 a.m. Every night. Then it displayed a message. User frequently visits location during sleep hours. Below it sat a map. My stomach tightened instantly, because the highlighted location wasn't my apartment. It wasn't even my building. It was a small alley roughly 15 minutes away. I stared at the screen, confused. The app claimed I had visited the alley every night for the past 11 days. Always at 2:47 a.m. Always for 2 minutes. Then returned home. I checked my location history. Every entry matched. Same alley. Same time. Same duration. I genuinely started wondering if I was sleepwalking. So on Friday night I stayed awake, determined to catch whatever was happening. By 2:30 a.m. I sat on my sofa drinking coffee. The apartment was silent. The watch sat on my wrist. 2:40, 2:45, 2:46. Then the screen lit up. Sleep session active. I frowned. I was literally awake, looking directly at the screen. Yet the watch believed I was asleep. Then another notification appeared. Location reached. My stomach dropped. Location reached. I hadn't moved. The map opened automatically. The blue location dot sat inside the alley, 15 minutes away, exactly where the previous reports had claimed. My hands felt cold. I refreshed the map. The blue dot remained there. Not at home. Not in my apartment. In the alley. Then movement appeared. The location marker began walking. Slowly. Through side streets. Toward my building. Toward my apartment. I stared at the screen, unable to look away. The route continued updating. Closer. 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 Eventually the marker stopped. Directly outside my building. Then the watch vibrated. Sleep session ending. My chest tightened. The map refreshed again. The blue dot instantly returned to my apartment, as if nothing had happened. I barely slept that night. The next morning I checked the sleep report. Everything looked normal, until I reached the final section. The app had generated a sleep summary photo, something it occasionally did automatically. Usually it showed graphs, statistics, charts. This one showed a satellite image. The alley, with a small red marker placed in the center. Underneath sat a caption. Favorite nighttime location confirmed. That was enough for me. I reset the watch, deleted the app, removed every permission. Everything. Problem solved. Or so I thought. 3 days later I woke up to a notification on my phone. Not from the watch. Not from the app. Just a system notification. No logo. No sender. Only text. Sleep session incomplete. I stared at it. Then another line appeared. User failed to arrive at destination. Underneath sat a timestamp. Tonight, 2:47 a.m. Story 3. Emergency contact. I never gave the watch permission to call anyone. That's the first thing you need to understand. The emergency features existed, sure. Most smartwatches have them. Fall detection, emergency SOS, crash alerts, stuff like that. But I disabled everything when I first bought it. I checked. Twice. Because I hated unnecessary notifications. So when my mother called me one Saturday morning asking why I'd phoned her at 3 a.m., I genuinely thought she was joking. I didn't call you. There was a pause. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. You called 3 times. My stomach tightened. I checked my call history. Nothing. No outgoing calls. No missed calls. Nothing unusual. I even checked deleted records. Still nothing. My mother eventually sent screenshots. 3 calls. All from my number. All around 3:07 a.m. Each lasting only a few seconds. I couldn't explain it. I apologized and assumed it was some weird network issue. Then it happened again. 3 days later. This time my brother called. Why were you ringing me last night? The same question. The same confusion. Again, my phone showed no record of the call. Yet his screenshots clearly showed my number. 3 calls. 3:07 a.m. Exactly. My stomach started to tighten every time I looked at the watch. Because there was one detail I hadn't mentioned to anyone. Every morning around that time, I'd find a notification waiting. A notification I couldn't open, couldn't interact with, couldn't delete. It simply appeared, then vanished after a few minutes. The message always said, "Emergency contact accessed." Nothing more. No explanation. No details. No contact name. Just those 3 words. At first I ignored it. After the calls started, I couldn't. I checked every setting, every permission, every emergency option. Everything remained disabled. According to the watch, emergency features weren't even active. Then my sister called. The 3rd person. Same story. Same time. 3:07 a.m. 3 calls. No voicemail. No response. Just silence. That night I stayed awake. I wanted answers. I sat on the sofa with the watch on my wrist. Television muted. Apartment silent. Waiting. Around 2:50 a.m. I began feeling ridiculous. By 3 a.m. I was struggling to stay awake. Then the watch vibrated. A notification appeared. Monitoring user safety. I frowned. I'd never seen that before. Then another. Emergency contact verification. My chest tightened. I opened the watch settings. Nothing. No new menus. No alerts. No explanation. Then the screen changed. A countdown appeared. 0:30. I stared. Confused. The timer continued. 0:29, 0:28, 0:27. I tried canceling it. Nothing happened. The watch ignored every input. The countdown reached 0. Then the screen went black. For several seconds nothing happened. Then another notification appeared. Emergency contact selected. Immediately afterward, my phone rang. The caller ID showed my mother. I answered instantly. "Hello." Silence. Then breathing. Very faint breathing. My stomach dropped. "Hello." The breathing continued. Then the line disconnected. A second later my brother called. Same thing. Breathing. Nothing else. Then my sister. Again. Breathing. 3 calls. One after another. Every emergency contact stored in my phone. The watch vibrated. Another notification. Connection successful. My hands felt cold. Because I hadn't called anybody. Yet somehow all 3 people had received something. The following morning I checked with them. All 3 described the same thing. A call from my number. No words. Just breathing. The timing matched exactly. 3:07 a.m. Every single one. At that point I considered throwing the watch away. Instead I contacted customer support. The representative sounded confused, then concerned, then eventually transferred me to technical support. After explaining everything, the technician asked me for the device logs. I emailed them over. Several hours later he called back. The first thing he asked was, "Are you the original owner?" The question caught me off guard. "Yeah." "You're sure?" "Of course." A long silence followed. Then he explained. The logs showed the emergency system had been activated hundreds of times. Not 3, not 10, hundreds. According to the records, The watch had spent years repeatedly attempting to contact emergency contacts. The problem? I'd only owned the watch for 6 months. The technician couldn't explain it. Neither could I. Then he asked something that made my stomach drop. "Do you recognize the contact named Daniel?" I frowned. "No." The technician went quiet, then said, "That's strange." I asked why. Another pause. Then, "Daniel appears to be the primary emergency contact." My chest tightened. I didn't know anybody called Daniel. There was nobody by that name in my contacts. No friends. No relatives. Nobody. Yet according to the logs, the watch had attempted to call him hundreds of times. Always at 3:07 a.m. Always unsuccessfully. The technician emailed me a screenshot from the system logs. I wish he hadn't, because the contact photo attached to Daniel wasn't blank. It wasn't a stranger either. It was me. A photo of me, taken while I was asleep. The timestamp showed it had been captured 2 weeks earlier, inside my bedroom. The following night I removed the watch before going to bed, turned it off completely, placed it in a drawer. At 3:08 a.m. my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered, immediately regretted it, because the voice on the other end sounded terrified, breathless, panicked, like somebody running. Then I realized who it was. The voice was mine. Exactly mine. The caller only said one sentence. "Please answer before it calls again." The line disconnected. The next morning the watch sat on my bedside table. Screen illuminated. One notification waited. Emergency contact updated. Underneath sat a single name. Daniel. And beside the name was my current phone number. Story 4. Find my watch. I lost the watch on a Tuesday. At least, I thought I did. It happened after university. I got home around 6 p.m., dropped my bag, and went to take the watch off before showering. Except it wasn't on my wrist. I checked my pockets, my desk, my backpack. Nothing. The watch had vanished. Annoying, but not the end of the world. The companion app had a tracking feature. I opened it. The map loaded. The watch appeared immediately. Location. Home. I frowned. Because I was home. I searched the apartment for nearly an hour. Bedroom. Kitchen. Sofa cushions. Laundry basket. Nothing. The watch wasn't there. Yet the map continued showing the same location. Home. Eventually I gave up. I figured the GPS hadn't updated properly. The next morning I checked again. Still home. Still connected. Still supposedly nearby. I activated the sound feature. Normally the watch would play a loud tone. A few seconds later the app confirmed. Sound played successfully. I listened. Silence. No beeping. No vibration. Nothing. I triggered it again. Same result. Sound played successfully. Yet I couldn't hear a thing. For the next few days the watch continued appearing on the map. Always at home. Always connected. Always nearby. But never found. Then things got strange. Friday night. Around 11 p.m. I was watching a film when my phone buzzed. A notification from the watch app. Watch moved. I sat upright. The map opened automatically. The location marker slowly moved across my apartment. From the bedroom to the hallway, then the kitchen. My stomach tightened because I was sitting completely alone. I checked every room immediately. Nothing. The apartment was empty. Yet the map showed the watch moving. A few seconds later the movement stopped. Location. Kitchen. The app then displayed. Device stationary. I barely slept that night. The next morning the watch appeared back in the bedroom. Exactly where it started. Like nothing had happened. The following evening it happened again. This time I watched the map in real time. The location slowly traveled through the apartment. Bedroom. Hallway. Kitchen. Living room. Then stopped. My chest felt cold. The movement looked deliberate. Not random. Not drifting GPS. Like someone walking. Then another notification appeared. One I'd never seen before. Daily activity complete. I stared at the screen. The app opened automatically. Steps recorded. 3,842. Calories burned, 217. Workout duration, 48 minutes. The watch was somehow logging activity, despite being lost, despite nobody wearing it. The following week I bought a Bluetooth tracker detector. I wanted proof. Proof the watch was somewhere inside the apartment. I spent hours scanning every room. Nothing. No signal. No nearby device. According to the detector, the watch wasn't there. Yet according to the app, it was. Every single day. Then came the notification that genuinely scared me. I woke up on Sunday morning and checked my phone. A sleep report waited. Not mine. A sleep report from the missing watch. My stomach dropped. The app displayed. Sleep duration, 7 hours 12 minutes. Resting heart rate, 61 BPM. Sleep quality, excellent. I stared at it, because somebody had apparently worn the watch all night. Then I reached the bottom. The report included a sleep location. Not an address. Not coordinates. Just one line. Location, occupied bedroom. My hands felt cold, because I only had one bedroom. The following night I stayed awake, determined to catch whatever was happening. Around 2 a.m. I sat in darkness watching the map. Nothing happened. 2:30. Still nothing. 2:45. Nothing. Then at exactly 3:03 a.m. the location dot began moving. Slowly. Very slowly. Across the apartment. Bedroom. Hallway. Living room. The route looked familiar, because it matched my apartment layout perfectly. Then the marker stopped. Location. Beside user. I froze. The phone sat in my hand. The location dot wasn't in another room. It wasn't in the hallway. It wasn't somewhere nearby. According to the map, the watch was directly next to me. Distance, 0.2 meters. I immediately turned on every light in the apartment. Nothing. No watch. No person. No explanation. Just an empty room. Then another notification appeared. Battery low. The percentage began dropping. 5%. 4%. 3%. I watched helplessly. Then, 2%. 1%. The map froze. The connection died. The watch finally disappeared. For the first time all week, I actually felt relieved. The next morning I woke up to a package sitting outside my apartment door. No delivery label. No sender. No postage markings. Nothing. Inside sat my smartwatch. The screen was cracked. The strap was dirty. The battery was completely dead. At least until I charged it. The moment power returned, a notification appeared. One final activity summary. Date. Last night. Steps. 4,106. Sleep duration. 0 hours. Location history. User followed successfully. Story 5. Fall detected. The watch called emergency services before I even hit the ground. That's what made me keep wearing it. At first, the feature actually saved me once. About 8 months after buying the watch, I slipped while running down a wet hill near campus. Nothing serious, just a nasty fall. Before I'd even stood up, the watch vibrated. Fall detected. A countdown appeared. Calling emergency services in 30 seconds. I quickly canceled it. Impressive. Annoying, but impressive. After that, I trusted the watch more. Maybe too much. Because a few weeks later it started detecting falls that never happened. The first false alert occurred while I was sitting on my sofa watching Netflix. The watch suddenly vibrated. Fall detected. I frowned. I hadn't moved for nearly an hour. I canceled it and forgot about it. Then it happened again. 3 days later. This time while I was studying. Again. Fall detected. Again. No fall. No movement. Nothing. The alerts slowly became more frequent. At first once a week. Then every few days. Then almost every night. Always late. Always when I was alone. Eventually I disabled the feature entirely. Problem solved. Or so I thought. A week later I woke up to find a notification waiting on the screen. Timestamp. 3:21 a.m. Fall detected. My stomach tightened. Because the feature was disabled. I checked the settings. still disabled. Yet somehow the alert had triggered anyway. Then I noticed something underneath. A line I'd never seen before. User reached ground level. I stared at it, confused. I lived on the 3rd floor. Ground level didn't make sense. The following night I stayed awake, partly out of curiosity, partly because the alerts were starting to bother me. At around 3:20 a.m. the watch vibrated. Fall detected. My chest tightened. I watched the screen. The countdown began. 30, 29, 28. Despite the feature supposedly being disabled, I tried canceling it. Nothing happened. The buttons didn't respond. The countdown continued. 27, 26, 25. Then suddenly stopped. A new notification appeared, verifying impact location. I sat frozen. The watch loaded a map. My apartment building appeared. Then a red marker. Not inside my flat. Outside. Directly beneath my bedroom window. My stomach dropped. Because that's exactly where somebody would land if they fell from my apartment. The screen went black. The notification disappeared. I barely slept. The next morning I checked the activity logs. There was no record of the alert. Nothing. As if it had never happened. The following week things escalated. The watch started recording impacts. Not falls. Impacts. Every morning I woke up to find a notification. Impact recorded. 3:21 a.m. The force measurement changed each night. Sometimes minor. Sometimes severe. The location never changed. Always beneath my bedroom window. Then one morning I opened the health app and noticed something strange. The impact reports included heart rate data. Not mine. A different profile. Unknown user. The graph showed a pulse spike. Then a sudden drop. Every single night. My hands felt cold. Because the pattern looked disturbingly familiar. Like someone hitting the ground. Then nothing. I contacted support. Again. The technician reviewed the logs. After several minutes he sounded confused. Then concerned. Finally he asked, "Have you owned the watch since it was new?" The question immediately bothered me. "Yeah. You're sure?" "Of course." A long pause followed. Then he explained. The device logs contained impact records dating back nearly 4 years. Hundreds of them. All from the same coordinates. All recorded at exactly 3:21 a.m. The problem? The watch model had only been released 2 years ago. The timestamps shouldn't even exist. That night I couldn't stop thinking about it. Around 3:15 a.m. I gave up trying to sleep and sat by the bedroom window. Just watching. Waiting. The street outside remained empty. Silent. 3:20. Nothing. 3:21. The watch vibrated. Fall detected. My pulse quickened. Then another notification appeared. Searching for user. I stared. The map loaded. The blue location dot moved. Not through streets. Not through roads. Straight down. From my bedroom. Toward the pavement outside. Like the watch believed I was falling. Then, impact confirmed. The screen flashed red. Immediately afterward another message appeared. User located. Coordinates matched the pavement beneath my window. My chest tightened. Then the watch did something it had never done before. It opened a photograph. A grainy image. Dark. Poor quality. Taken from street level. The picture showed my apartment building. Specifically my bedroom window. Then I noticed something standing beside the building. A person. The image quality was awful. But I could still make out one detail. The person appeared to be looking upward. Directly toward my window. Another photograph loaded. Then another. Each one timestamped. 3:21 a.m. Each one from a different night. Different weather. Different dates. Different years. Yet the same person appeared in every image. Standing in exactly the same place. Looking toward the same window. Then I reached the most recent photograph. Taken less than 30 seconds earlier. The figure was still there. My stomach dropped. Because I was sitting beside the window. Which meant if the photo was real, the person should have been visible outside. I rushed to the glass and looked down. The pavement was empty. Nobody there. Nothing. Then my watch vibrated one final time. The last notification I've ever received from it. Fall detection complete. Underneath sat a second line. One that made me throw the watch into a drawer and never wear it again. Correct user still not found. Most people wear their smartwatch every day. They trust it. They rely on it. They let it track their sleep, monitor their heart rate, and record where they've been. And eventually, they stop paying attention to what it's actually collecting. Because when a device spends enough time on your wrist, it learns everything about you. Your habits, your routines, the places you visit, the times you're alone, and sometimes, it starts noticing things you don't. A heart rate that isn't yours, a location you never visited, a notification that should be impossible. There are more stories like this on my channel. If you're willing to keep tracking, subscribe. If you think you can handle the next one, I'll see you again. Assuming your watch doesn't wake you up first.